Okay, so let's talk about how we go from selecting an actuality and editing it to creating our scripts and putting this all together for your final project. You have started your piece with a headline, also known as a slug for it. I shouldn't call it a headline, sorry. A name that tells us what this piece is about, that it will be filed under and saved as. Who is reporting it, when this is being put together, and the total running time for everything from the start of the host lead down through the end of your piece. We've talked about the different colors, so this needs to be in bold. The actuality needs to be in italics, and your text needs to be in regular font. Now, you are going to record this and put it in a multi-track mixdown. But that's after you've selected this cut here and gone back through your script. When we go through our script, we want to look for a couple of things. So let's point out what those things are. Passive voice. Is there any in your script? Redundancy. Have you repeated what the person in your actuality is saying? We don't want that unless the person is very difficult to understand. Overstatement. Are you trying to turn this into a bigger deal than it really is? If you interviewed 5 people, it's just a small survey. Past tense instead of present tense. If they are about to tell you what they think about pop music, then that's a says. If that person told you they used to listen to pop music, but now they listen to rap, well, the used to is past, and the rest of it should be in present. Misspellings. Do you have print style in there? Are you using passive voice? Are you forgetting to include the actor? And most importantly, sentences that are hard to say. If you have a sentence that takes more than one breath, then you probably don't have a very good sentence. Please review the text that you were given on your Next Generation Radio book about how to write for radio, and make sure that you pay attention to the conventions that are provided to you in that. So let's go back to this, and we can say, Reed says lawmakers are in initial talks about counties partnering on transportation projects. Okay, active voice. But it would differ from the statewide transportation tax that failed throughout most of Georgia in 2012. Under the new approach, 3 counties, rather than 10, would voluntarily bond together to pay for new bridges, roads, and transit projects. Okay, we're in present tense. We just have one idea per sentence. As you can see, it would differ from the one that failed. This is how the new one would work. One idea per sentence. Speaking at the Georgia Budget and Policy Conference, Reed says both Democrats and Republicans support that approach. Okay. I don't like the way that sentence reads, but I'm going to leave it for now. The reason I don't like it is because I've got this right here. I've got an introductory phrase that is slowing me up. It might be that we could take this here and go at the Georgia Budget and Policy Conference, Reed said both Democrats and Republicans support that approach. There we go. That helps me out a little bit. Then I don't have to say that awkward speaking. You're going to notice that this says said. And the reason it said says instead of says is because this actuality comes from a public speech and not a one-on-one interview. So because it happened at something that we know took place already, sorry about that, because we know that this was said in the past, we need to use past tense, but otherwise we're going to stick with present. So, okay, over in Audacity, we are going to start this edit process. And as you can see, I've got my Audacity pulled up. I'm going to shrink this screen a little bit for you. Give me a second here. Okay, here we are in Audacity. And I have recorded my tracking and put all of it in the first track 1, as you can see. Now, I've just recorded what Jean Bonner has said, and I want you to listen to this for a second. Transportation projects, but it would differ from the statewide transport. So obviously, I've got a little screw up in this. This sort of thing I want you to fix. Okay, so you're going to go right in there. But it would be different. So just going to edit out my screw up there, and then I'm going to use my slip tool and by zooming in, I'm going to make sure I've got that nice and tight without a crossfade. Looks like I do. Projects. But it would differ from the statewide transportation tax vote that failed throughout most of Georgia in 2012. There we go, that's good. So what's going to happen is right about here, I've got, let me take that again. Under the new approach, 3 counties rather than 10 would voluntarily bond. There we go. So I've got something else that I need to change. Roads and transit projects would voluntarily bond together to pay for the new bridge. 3 counties rather than 10 would, under the new approach. Okay. So I edit all of that out. And again, because this is on multi-track and not in waveform, what's going to happen is this is going to create a split, and I'm going to need to drag the pieces of audio together. If I were to be doing this in waveform, the audio that I just cut out would just disappear entirely. So when I come over here, and Republicans support that approach. I've got a little bit that says, he says lots of people support that approach. Well, that's great. I'm going to separate these two, and I'm going to move that one back. And right here is where my actuality is going to go. So I'm going to create some space between my first voice track and my second voice track, but they stay on the same track. And then right here on this second track, I am going to pull in the clip that I'm using for this rap, right? So I don't have his bit right now, but I can tell you that I've got here we go, track 4. So if I am in multi-track, what I can do is just take track 4 and I'll do that with you or within your view. And I just pop it right in there. And for ease of use, I'm just going to window shade this. There we go, I've window shaded it. So I've got my actuality, or in this case my pretend actuality, because he's not actually Kasim Reed. I'm going to zoom in even further so that I'm looking at this in half seconds. And then I'm going to fade in and fade out. And of course I'm going to listen to it.
Support that approach. It would be different, but it would...
There we go. So now you don't want to fade while someone is still talking, but I don't have Kasim Reed's audio, so I'm just playing around here. I make sure I have everything faded. I trim and fade as needed, and I listen to it all the way through to make sure that the audio comes together nicely, that it has the same levels. So if I play this
throughout most of Georgia in 2012,
that's at about -14. I play this.
Legislative action on transportation.
-14. Okay, I should probably boost all of this audio up. So I would do that. I would select all of it, and then I would go into my favorites or into my effects, whichever you prefer. Go to amplify. You can also normalize it if you prefer to do it that way. And I'm going to normalize it to -3. Ta-da! I go back to my multi-track. And now you'll see
that both Democrats and Republicans support that approach. It would be different, but it would differ from the statewide transportation tax vote that failed throughout most of Georgia in 2012.
And so now it's much louder, but I would of course have to do that with all three of these pieces. After that, what I do, and I'll just shrink this up so you can see, but I'm going to go up to Audition, and I'm going to export multi-track Mixdown, entire, oops, nope, not entire session. It wants me to do entire session because I haven't selected anything yet, and that's my bad, so I'm going to zoom out, select my 2 tracks, and now go to File, Export, Multi-Track Mixdown, Time Selection, and I can save it either as an MP3 or as a WAV. Either is fine with me. I call it Read. I don't need the word Mixdown in here, that's their standard, so Read Wrap 1, because I'm going to do 2 of these. I put it someplace safe. I make sure that this is the appropriate sample type, and I click OK. And then I'm going to listen to it again after I get done with this so that I make sure I've done it correctly and it turned out the way I think it should have. And I'll do it again for my second script. And that is what you turn in. You turn in your 2 mixdowns and your script for each. Hope that helps.